September 21st, 2025, we've got a new moon in Virgo, solar eclipse. Then the next day, the Libra Equinox, fall equinox in the northern hemisphere, spring in the southern hemisphere, so a change of season on top of an eclipse. And we also have Mars moving from 29 Libra into 0 Scorpio on that next day after the eclipse. So a lot of changes, a lot of intense energy, and a lot of endings. I already talked about this for the Pisces eclipse, which is still in effect because eclipses can last for up to 6 months afterwards. But for today, we're going to start with some of the negatives and then move into what are the opportunities with these energies, because there are some moments of grace. There are some big potentials for breakthroughs and changes, but it is really intense energy. So eclipses always are kind of powerful. I've been doing a lot of research on eclipses because they show up a lot related to death and near-death transits that can be symbolic in the sense of like the end of a way of life, the end of a relationship, the end of a situation that really has run its course. But it can play out in health crises, especially if you've got something in a hard aspect with the eclipse. And so just kind of a heads up, again, we're doing the negative first, heads up, especially if you have anything in late mutable signs. So the Virgo Pisces, but also Gemini Sagittarius. If you've got anything in, say, 25 to 29 degrees of those signs, or the very early parts of the cardinal signs. So Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn. If you've got anything in those ranges, this is going to be extra intense for you, but it's so big and it's so collective with all of these different energies that really like every sign gets hit with something here. So we also have Mars at 29 Libra on the time of the eclipse. And that 29th degree, whatever sign it's in, that's kind of like last call for that sign. It's called the crisis degree for a reason, because it tends to bring up whatever issues are related to that planet or whatever issues are related to that sign. So the Virgo Pisces axis, we've got this eclipse at 29 Virgo, and that energy is related to daily habits, to service, how do we serve the world, mystics, martyrs. You get more the mystics in terms of the Pisces energy, where Saturn will be, 28 Pisces. And then with Virgo, you tend to get more of that martyrdom energy, that energy of putting yourself out there to be of service, but maybe sometimes a little too much for service. So with that energy, that opposition of the eclipse to Saturn in late Pisces, this is really a time of endings. It's a time of finishing up old business, old relationships, old addictions with Saturn in Pisces. This is another round of a chance to really kind of redirect life. A lot of times when we have something like, too much scrolling or sugar cravings, things like that, there's a deeper spiritual component that if we can tap into that, a lot of times that helps to rebalance things. So those issues could come up more around the time of the eclipse. Also, if you've got a birthday between 1967 and 1970, this one could hit you in a bigger way because there's high likelihood that your natal Uranus and or your natal Pluto will be impacted in some way by this eclipse. You'll be able to tell that from your natal chart. Also, again, anybody that's got anything in the late mutables, early cardinal signs, those energies are more up than most people, but this is a collective transit. We're already seeing results of this. Some of the murders that are really in the news right now, Charlie Kirk's natal Venus, 28 Virgo. Irina, the one who was murdered on the subway, her natal Uranus in late Aquarius, so quincunx to this eclipse. And so it's not to say that, death and destruction always come if you've got something there, but best to decide if you want to use those energies in a different area of life. Be conscious about how you're funneling these energies. So I promised some good news, and there is good news. There's two, not just one, but two grand trines in effect at the time of the eclipse. So one of those is it's out of sign on the date of the eclipse. We've got 29 Virgo, but that's very close to 0 Libra, and at the same time we've got Uranus at 1 degree Gemini and Pluto at 1 degree of Aquarius. And so the next day, equinox, when that sun moves into Libra, it becomes even more powerful because it's a grand trine in air and everything's pulling in the same directions, all the same energies. But in general, what I notice, especially doing a lot of research on near-death experiences, the grand trine will show up. I feel like it's what makes the difference between something being a full-on death versus a near-death. So, it's kind of like cats have 9 lives. It just adds an extra dose of grace, an extra dose of energy. So that's in effect. It's really excellent if you've got creative projects, if you've been kind of lagging on things, getting bogged down in the details, very Virgo. There's a chance to level up beyond that, or to put in the hard work around the time of this eclipse, and again, over the next 6 months. And what that can do is your detailed hard work pays off. With Saturn, we tend to get the payoff for the hard work. Similarly with Virgo, these are, Saturn's a hard-working planet, and Virgo is a hard-working sign, often associated with being a workaholic, so you want to be careful around that energy. But there is this cosmic support carrying a lot of your efforts at this time. So that's grand trine number 1. The second grand trine is that the North Node in Pisces will be trine Jupiter in Cancer and Lilith in Scorpio, Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio. Those are all like 18 to 22 degrees of those signs. So water signs, water grand trines are even extra flowy, extra magical. With Jupiter, we get this expansion. With the North Node, we get the energies of, where are we headed collectively? And with Black Moon Lilith, that's a trauma marker in charts, can show up with trauma, abuse, narcissistic abuse, sexual abuse, but also wild woman energies, women who run with the wolves, your natural self that needs to be authentic. You're going to find that it's easier for that to come out at this time. So again, if these are issues that you have been plagued with or really trying to address but not having much success with it, this eclipse could help to push things over the edge where finally you are able to make a decisive break with some old patterns and bring in some energies that are more authentic, especially on the emotional, spiritual level. So again, with that North Node in Pisces, we are being called to level up spiritually. The Sabian symbol for this eclipse degree, we always round up. I think it's 2905, but we round up to the next degree for the Sabian symbol, and that is Virgo 30 degrees, totally intent upon completing an immediate task. A man is deaf to any allurement. And then Dane Rudyard adds a keynote, the total concentration required for reaching any spiritual goal, conquest of illusion. And so that just gives us a flavor, it gives us a clue of some of the things that are up right now. Certainly in terms of the news cycle and just the general craziness in the world right now, it is supremely easy to get distracted, right? Like you can go down a rabbit hole and like not find your way out for years. Or you can remember, you know what? Some of this stuff out there is a spectacle. Some of this does not really apply to me personally. how do I take my energies? How do I pull them back in? And then put them out in the way that feels correct to me. So, again, with the creative energies, a lot of musicians have significant Virgo placements, a lot of poets. There's a verbal energy. Virgo's ruled by Mercury, so communication, but it's not the crazy communication of Gemini where you're over here, over there, over there. This is more like editing as opposed to like free flow journaling. It's more about the finesse, getting things right, getting things into the proper order. And so that can apply in your own life. That can apply, organizing your closets. It could be appearance, like fixing things that are really having problems. It could be health. The Virgo Pisces axis is also a health-related axis. With Virgo, you get more of the physical and the mental health. With the Pisces end of the spectrum, which again, Saturn is right there. So we're not ignoring Pisces, even though this is a new moon and the sun and the moon are both in Virgo and the eclipse is in Virgo. That Pisces energy is strong at this time because of Saturn there. So you might want to look back to like May of this year and see, because Saturn was in the 29th degree at that time, what came up for you. There may be a chance to course correct. There may be a chance to kind of, handle things a little better than at that time, or just finish them up or edit. Again, if you're working on creative projects, this is excellent, excellent energy for editing. So I want to talk a little bit about Mars in late Libra, 29 degree Libra. Mars is not really happy in Libra. That's like one of the signs where Mars, it's not comfortable. Mars rules the opposite sign, Aries. And so there is this energy of inhibition sometimes with Mars in Libra. And also Mars in Libra, it can play out where there's, busting up peace agreements or busting up negotiations. Mars in Scorpio, actually much happier because Mars rules Scorpio, co-rules it with Pluto. So that happens the next day when, again, we get that equinox shift. And so this, more than most eclipses, we are going to feel different the next day because of that change of season, because of that change of Mars into this newer energy of Scorpio. So that's, you can work with that energy. But if you've got things even at like late Cancer, Capricorn, or Aries, you're that Mars energy is going to be up more. So be a little more careful driving, not taking extra risks, just because Mars can play out with some kind of accident energy, but you can funnel that to some extent into taking action on things that, again, have been sort of lagging or lingering. So there's also a couple other things in effect. There's a yod, a finger of God, from Pluto at 1 degree Aquarius, Neptune at 0 Aries, pointing to Venus, goddess of love, at 2 degrees of Virgo. That can indicate changes in relationship, kind of divinely directed changes in relationships. When you've got Pluto involved, we're getting at the deeper, the darker, the buried, hidden things. When you've got Neptune involved, you're getting into the higher spirituality. You could be getting into some confusion as well. But again, with that finger of God pointing to Venus in Virgo, not the happiest place for Venus to be, but what Venus in Virgo does encourage us to do is to evaluate, to kind of get that checklist going in terms of relationships. Also to see, what are we devoted to? What are we, in terms of values? What holds our attention? What holds our flame, our value? And so Venus is, this is a collective transit. We may see a change in values as a result of this eclipse and the energies unfolding around this time. So just trying to keep this pretty quick, short and sweet. Take it easy around the time of the eclipse. Find ways to use that energy for creativity rather than chaos, rather than all of the grief and things that may come up. But just realize if it does, let those tears flow, let that energy have a place to go. And it's a great time for the Serenity Prayer, also an excellent time for the prayer of St. Francis, if you know that one. I can put that in the description below. So blessings to everyone.